I first came to Alexandria in 1984, and it was a little bit more of a sleepy town, bedroom community outside of Washington at the time. But what I was struck with was the community of Alexandria and how, coming from Harrisonburg, Virginia, although I was born in Brooklyn, New York, I was used to a much slower pace. Two cars at a traffic light was a traffic jam. And so coming to Alexandria, I knew it was going to be a little more activity than that, a little more diversity, a lot more diversity, and a lot more action with places to go, museums, and the local historic sites here in Alexandria are amazing. But the thing that struck me the most was how Alexandria was a small town in a big city. And I just couldn't be happier to find myself in a neighborhood of people that really got along and liked each other and helped each other when needed. My job in Harrisonburg was very exciting. I was young. I was involved in building a brand new bus system, and I found myself in love with public transit and with public service. The one thing that I realized that my boss, the gentleman that hired me, had no plans on leaving Harrisonburg. He was born and raised there, and he was going to be in the position of the leader of the bus system for many years. And I was starting to have an itch of wanting to be a leader in a bus system and be able to take public transit wherever I would be going to a different level and a new level. And so that's when I decided to start looking around. And the fact is, he's still there today. I came across an ad in the Washington Post. This was before the internet, and it was a Sunday employment section, and there was a job listed for a liaison, a transit liaison coordinator of a new bus system that was starting up. And it was actually a position in the city government, not actually out at the bus company. But at that time, there wasn't anybody in the city government who really knew anything about buses. So they were looking for someone to come in and help with everything from getting the bus system off the ground, working with the other jurisdictions on coordination issues, arrangements and coordination with Metrobus, and really to the system when it started was so small. They didn't have. It was basically just the general manager and a secretary, and who also answered the phones, and the general manager answered the phones too. And I did when I first got there, and so they needed someone to provide support. So I came in and did all the marketing, did all the planning efforts for the system from City Hall. But my love was really to get out to the bus system at some point. And it wasn't too long when I came to Alexandria a number of years later that I had that opportunity. Yes, I started in college as a part-time bus driver, as some of us oldsters did back then. It's very different today with all the laws, the commercial driver's license laws, and a number of different requirements to become a bus driver. It's much more stringent today. So when I went to college, all you needed was you had to go and do a driving test, and that was about it, which I passed right off the bat. And so I started driving for Harrisonburg Transit, and I loved it. I loved being out on the streets with the community and helping people get to their destinations and get there on time. That was really important for people who were going to work or going to school. But it was a little bus system, and one of the things I was able to do before I left was to negotiate a contract with the university, James Madison University, to basically take over all of their transportation and integrate it with the city's public transit system. And that took us from a couple of hundred riders a day to 3,000 a day overnight. it was a challenge, and I'm always up for challenges. And I think that's part of why the job in Alexandria really intrigued me, because it was a new system, just like when I started in Harrisonburg, and I felt like they could really use someone like me to help get this system off the ground and make it a success. Women in transit basically were women in administrative positions, secretaries, bookkeepers. There was no, even women bus drivers was an anomaly back then. And so for someone like myself to strive to move up within the transit industry was something that was courageous for women at that time. But I didn't let it deter me. I did whatever I needed to do from I worked harder than probably most men, and because that's what you have to do if you're a woman to get where you want to go. And I sat in many, 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 many meetings where I was the only woman sitting in the room. But coming from Brooklyn, New York, I was able to use my New York ways to be heard. A lot of times the men are talking amongst themselves, and you're sitting there trying to get a word in, and you have to speak up. So I learned to speak up. I learned to speak slower. Coming from New York, you can tend to speak very quickly, and people don't understand what you're saying. And I made what I felt was I made sense when I spoke, and suddenly the men started listening. Sometimes. I think I was one of three women in the transit industry that were actually CEOs, general managers of transit organizations and transit operations for many years. But little by little, I think we were able to break through that glass ceiling, and we did have women that were coming up in planning and marketing positions and administrative positions, and even drivers that looked up to us as, hey, if they can do it, so can we. I served for a number of years on the American Public Transportation Association's diversity committee, and I worked hard to help women that were striving to come up to be a mentor to them, and it's not that hard to do, and I think it's really important for women in any industry where you're a minority in the room, to really help those that are trying to move up as well. And sometimes that doesn't happen, but I felt it was my duty to help women that I saw in our industry rise up in their organizations, as well as in our own organization at Dash, helping to open doors for women who wanted to drive buses. When I first came to Dash, I think we had 2 women in the whole company. And so I saw a need to, because I knew I liked to drive a bus. I'm sure there was other women out there that thought that would be a great career, as well as coming up into supervisory ranks and dispatchers. I created a whole dispatch program, and two women right off the bat that were drivers wanted to come up into that program. And one of them is still with us today. And she's actually went back to school, and she's actually a manager now, overseeing the human resources in the operations, the liaison work. So I'm very proud that I was able to open doors for women and bust through that glass ceiling. I think how it makes me cry. When you are a leader in an organization and you have people working for you, you have to know that those people, those employees, are the most important thing to you. They can help you look good, and that's important. But more important is the fact that if you want to have employees that are motivated to do the job that you're asking them to do, first of all, you have to be able to do that job too. They have to see you in out there with them. You may not be, now I could drive a bus, but not that I have to drive a bus in order for them to respect me. But I have to know, I have to be able to put myself into their shoes. And I think so many organizations are so worried about so many things, about perception, their perception of the organization, their perception of this or that, the funding issues and all of that. And a lot of times what's forgotten is the people that are making it all work. And so it's really important to me, and one of the things that I did when I came to Dash, the first thing I did was call an employee meeting right off the bat. My second day there, I wanted to meet everybody. I wanted to let them know about who I am. When you ask an employee how their family's doing, you might not know their family. You might not know exactly who their children are. But for them to hear you ask about them or their families, members of their family, or how was your day? What route did you drive today? How was your day? Thank you for coming to work. I mean, most managers would not ever think of saying that to an employee. But to me, when somebody walks through the door, they didn't have to show up today. They could have called in sick. They could have taken the day off. But they came to work. And yeah, that's their job. But I thanked them for coming to work. And I appreciated the fact that they were there, they were on time, and they were going to be safe when they took that bus out of the garage. So it's the little things that you can do for your employees that can make the biggest difference in your organization. You have to let them know that you care about them. If they don't think that you care about them, they're not going to be as motivated, I don't think, to do the job like you want them to do. I grew into the role. You just don't become an effective leader of an organization, and you're going to make mistakes, but you have to learn from them in order to be able to be better and improve yourself. I think with Dash, the one thing that really stands out in my mind in terms of my vision for the system was a back-to-basics approach. And what that means is you can have a glitzy marketing campaign, or you could have really cool-looking uniforms, but if your drivers aren't friendly, and if your buses aren't clean, and if the bus isn't on time and well-maintained, your service is going to go down the tubes pretty quick. And I think some transit systems and companies overall spend too much time worrying about the glitz instead of what's really important to running a well-run organization, to me, is, and for a bus system, is having clean buses, is having friendly and courteous drivers that show up on time, and well-maintained buses that aren't breaking down all over the city. And we had, and that's something that customer service is the critical piece of our organization. And not everybody comes in, understands about customer service. So we do try, to always hire the people that we think have the best customer service skills. But not everybody's as outgoing as the next person, and so it's a critical piece of the organization is the training, the ongoing training. There's the initial new hire training, but then there's also the ongoing refresher training, reminding the employees how important customer service is to the organization and to their reputation and the reputation overall of the Dash system. When I first came here, there was a big debate about whether the Dash system made sense. We had two bus systems. Why are we having two bus systems? I saw that as a challenge to explain to the community why we had two bus systems. And one of the biggest pieces was, at that time, Metro had focused all their energy on the rail, and the bus system was really going down the tubes. The buses weren't even showing up. They were filthy. The drivers were surly, and people didn't want to ride. And Alexandria has high standards for a lot of things. And so I looked at that and I said, well, we've got to show how we're different and how we're better. And so that's where it all started. And I had a great mentor that really had that vision as well, and that was my chairman of 23 years, Mr. Bill Hurd. He was very much into the back to basics approach. He'd come into the garage with his white glove, and if it was filthy, that would be the end. But it was never filthy because we did have high standards, not only out on the street, but also in our maintenance department. We don't use duct tape to put things together in maintenance. And so it all boils down, again, going back to your employees. They have to share that vision, and you have to make it important enough for them to share that vision. Otherwise, they're just people doing their jobs. They're not really out there on a daily basis with that vision in their minds. And so it was important to me to build the company up in a way where the employees felt they were part of the vision and they wanted to be part of the company and part of the vision, that it was their company, not my company. Well, Alexandria is my community. You know, I love Alexandria, and it was really important if I was going to be part of this bus system, that the bus system not only needed to be an excellent, outstanding system for the sake of being a bus system, a great bus system, it really had to be a great bus system to help Alexandria be a greater city. Without Dash here, without the King Street Trolley, we took over the King Street Trolley after 2 years of it being operated by a private bus company. And we changed it completely. And we built it up, and overnight, the ridership on the trolley doubled. So Alexandria is a great city. It has great people living and working in it. And I believe that that Dash, having the Dash system, an award-winning, nationally recognized system, as part of Alexandria's history and transportation network, certainly bolsters the city of Alexandria overall, and people want to come to Alexandria, and people that we get letters all the time from visitors and tourists, telling us how unbelievable their trip on Dash or trip on the trolley was, how the driver was so friendly and the bus was so clean, and all of the back to basics approach is what they talk about. And sometimes a visitor might have said that they might have written that they had lost their wallet, and oh my God, a supervisor showed up at their hotel with the wallet in their hands. I mean, that's just this kind of stuff we did. And so it's a great city and it's a great bus system, and the two go really hand in hand. And I'm really proud that I could help Alexandria become a better city. And really, Dash is a gem in Alexandria. It's one of the top 5 city services, and all the surveys that get put out from time to time, we're always at the top of the most important services in the city, and that makes me feel good that we've been able to achieve that type of recognition throughout the city. So I can't be any more prouder than what I've done here in Alexandria, not only for me, but for the bus system and also for the city of Alexandria overall. The other thing I'm really proud about is that Dash is the envy of the entire region. The entire region of transit looks to Dash to see what we're doing. And I think that's wonderful too, that the fact that everybody in the region wants to be like Dash. Well, of course, the person that influenced me the most from day one in Alexandria, even before I became the CEO of the system, was the chairman, Mr. Hurd. He was a consummate chairman, a consummate thinker of sort of the big vision that he had for the system. And he taught me about how to work with the system and get buy-in for things that you wanted to do, and how to get support from your elected officials. And he was amazing when he was chair, he took care of a lot of those the politics. And when Mr. Hurd spoke, everybody listened. And so I think that he was definitely one of the top people in my years in Alexandria. In terms of the work that we've done and how it's affected people in Alexandria and certain segments of the community. When I first came to the city, I was here for about a month. And my boss at the time was a deputy city manager. I worked in the city manager's office, and he wanted to know if I thought I could develop a paratransit system for persons with disabilities, door-to-door transportation. And we didn't have that here when I came. And I thought back on the work I did in Harrisonburg, because that's one of the services that we offered with taxi cabs and vans, lift-equipped vans. And I basically, people give me a challenge. I don't say no. I don't even think that I can't do it. And I have to tell you that can-do attitude that I've had all my life, I have to recognize my own father for that. He's no longer on this earth, but he's the man that told me I could do anything I wanted. He kept talking about me becoming president. And actually, that's the last position I would ever want at this point in time, although I could probably run the city, the country a little bit better than what we got now. I won't get into that. But my dad always said to me that I can do whatever I want, put my mind to do. And so when I was asked, could I develop a paratransit system for the city of Alexandria, I didn't even blink an eye. I said, of course I can. Just give me a little time. 3 months later, we had a program ready to implement. And how I did that was by working with different entities here in Alexandria that were already providing transportation for senior citizens. So I got to know the senior services. I got to know Diamond Transportation. And I brought them all together into the room and I said, can you do this? Can we expand what you're doing now? And yeah, we'll have to buy some vans with, I had the contractor buy the vans. The city didn't even buy the vans. But I put a program together and I put it out there for them, and they agreed to join it. And within 3 months, we had the DOT program. And so I think I have made a very big impact on the persons with disabilities, the commission and the community of disabled people in Alexandria. The mobility improvements that we made back even before the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, was passed, were enormous. And people like Chet Avery and Marianne Orms, Robbie Worth, they were all people that had faith that we'd be able to do this. And it is all about collaboration with other people and other entities, and finding out who in the community can you work with to get things done. Because a lot of times there's a lot of things you can do on your own and you can get stuff done, but when you bring in other like-minded people into the solving a problem or implementing a program or taking on a new challenge, then it becomes much more fun to do it that way and to work with others. And so I've always liked it. That's sort of how I've rolled, working with other people in the community to get stuff done. And it works. I think an important part of any leader's job is to inspire others. And inspiring others to help build our community, to make positive impacts, and to help others. And it really boils down to community service and giving of yourself to help others. And I think it's really important that leaders are able to roll up their sleeves. I have always said to my staff that none of us are ever too good not to pick up a piece of trash as you come into the building. We don't come into the building and then call somebody in maintenance who's at a lower position to pick up a piece of paper outside as you're passing it. So I think that's really important in terms of having people that want to look up to you, that do look up to you, and to gain respect. You can't demand respect from people. You have to earn respect. So I think that's very important. And I am leaving Dash and to go to my next passion. I've always said that Dash and dogs are my two passions. And my other part-time career over the last 20 years has been teaching people how to train their dog. It's all about the people. So I do feel like many of the lessons I've learned over the years at Dash and the kind of leader that I was is exactly the same thing that I want to do in my dog training academy. Treat the employees like they're kings and queens, so they go out and treat the customers like they're kings and queens, and take care of each other and help each other out. And a person that wants to become a dog trainer and says to me, I want to become a dog trainer because I love dogs, that doesn't cut it. You gotta love the people, because they're the ones that you're going to be teaching. You're going to be working with the dogs and training them, but it's the people that have to, when you leave them, have to continue the program in order to feel like they've gotten results. And it is with dog training, it's all about getting results and teaching a dog. I always say, teaching dogs to make incredibly brilliant choices